The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a fiduciary, fee-based financial planning firm serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve.
Welcome, everyone, to the Fed15 podcast, presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info the feds need to know in about 15 minutes-ish or less. So whether you're a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has you covered. So grab your coffee, energy drink, green juice, whatever, kick back, and we'll tell you what you need to know, but just might have missed. We are your host. I'm Dan Sipe, and I am joined by, I love that I can say this, star of stage and screen, Katelyn Murray.
Star of stage and screen. I don't know about star.
I got you.
Awesome. Well, actually, though, this week, the Murray family celebrity is not myself. It is my brother. My brother, Tyler Murray, who plays for Liberty Christian Academy's Bulldogs. There's quite a few years between he and I. I will not disclose how many. But he won the state championship, he and his teammates, after a long time of kind of chasing after it and a couple kind of near misses. I think the past 2 years, they've made it all the way to the championship game. But then they played a really great team out of Phoebus. I'm not sure exactly where they're located, but they were unseeded at the very end. So it was pretty sweet that his senior year, he was actually, they were able to snatch it up and get their championship ring. So big deal. Real proud of him.
Absolutely. That is awesome. And I'll put this out to the universe. Do not mess with Miss Katelyn, because baby bro is a bull of a man. Okay, he's got a full beard. There's a full beard in high school.
He's a big guy. Our dad had a full beard in high school. It's a thing. He's a beast, but that's my beast. So
that's awesome.
Really, really proud of him. So very exciting time.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks so much. I'll have to show him this episode. He's interested in finance, so
there you go.
We'll see if I can save him from the corporate finance bros, get him into financial planning, helping families.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this week we have a couple of interesting topics to kind of discuss. We've got a really interesting kind of report from the Inspector General that we're going to go over on OPM retirement services. And then Dan's going to talk a bit about, back onto the topic of Social Security for feds. We're going to talk about disability benefits versus retirement benefits, because there is kind of some distinct differences there, and that overview is helpful. So diving into this report from the Inspector General, there's a new report that basically says Retirement Services Division of OPM needs, some quicker improvements. Only one out of the recommendations from 2019's report have been satisfied at this point. There's obviously a modernization effort that's underway. We've kind of seen OPM trying to update some of those systems, but solid details have yet to be announced as far as future plans go. The Inspector General in this new report recommended that OPM hold some training sessions so that feds better understand FEHB and FEGLI in retirement. Good idea. As well as to better ensure their retirement claims are error-free before they're submitted to OPM.
Well, Katelyn, I happen to know of a place that does a whole lot of complimentary webinars for feds.
Indeed. It actually, sometimes helps clients. I know that I am not the only one who has helped clients through that retirement paperwork before. It can be somewhat confusing. There are a lot of different options on there. So definitely support more training sessions, particularly around filling out the retirement application. I think that would be very helpful to kind of cut down on some of the work that the folks in OPM are doing to kind of correct those errors that can sometimes go back and forth. So they did an analysis of healthy versus unhealthy retirement packets. And what this report noted was that the healthy retirement packets, which are the error-free retirement packets, typically do get processed a whole lot quicker than those with even just one error that needs to be corrected. And of course, reason being there is, OPM will kick that retirement application back to your HR or to you. And then you kind of got to go through the process over again once you get things corrected. In November, the average processing time for completed retirement claims was about 39 days for the healthy error-free claims.
Wow.
And 119 days for the applications that were considered unhealthy. And again, the screening there is one error or more.
Wow.
So quite a big gap there. Now, you may recall that on a prior episode, we have kind of covered the OPM backlog issue.
Sure.
Overall inventory of pending claims there has dropped to 5%, or has dropped by 5% to 15,826 still pending at the end of November. So there is progress. This is the lowest point that the backlog has been at since 2017. So, we definitely don't want to overshadow, the good work that's being done there by the folks at OPM. In November, 36% of retirement claims submitted from DOC employees had errors. This was unfortunately the highest rate across all agencies, so not necessarily an award that you want to win.
Right.
The DoD had the highest number of submitted packets with errors, but the portion of DoD retirement claims with errors was 23%.
That's still pretty high.
Still pretty high.
Yeah.
I think it still points to the need for some additional kind of education around benefits in general, but also how to complete that paperwork. Because there's understanding the benefits and then there's completing the paperwork, and there's kind of two different things. However, interestingly enough, the report did point out that retirement claims submitted by NASA employees were 100% error-free.
What, rocket scientist? Come on.
So it may, in fact, take a rocket scientist to correctly complete and submit your federal retirement account paperwork.
Well, great job, NASA.
Yes. So
impressive.
It'll be interesting to see with, the next report whether progress has been made. It definitely sounds like progress has been made since the 2019 report, just maybe not at the pace really that we're looking for.
Gotcha.
I will shameless plug there. If you are looking at submitting retirement account paperwork and you would like to have a healthy claim, maybe reach out to someone who has filled out a couple thousand of those retirement packets before. We would be happy to help with that. The email's ask.stwserve or ask.stws@stwserve.com.
Sure.
So Dan, you have some updates for us, or not really updates, but just kind of educational information around Social Security.
Yeah, well, Social Security and how it interfaces with FERS disability. And one of the things that hurts my heart from my history is we did some work for somebody and they did not apply for FERS disability retirement. And the real reason there was because then they would have qualified. They just asked the question the wrong way. They asked their personnel if they had disability insurance, and the answer was no. I think they could have gone a step further and said, but you have disability retirement, from which you actually can return. A lot of people don't know that. So with FERS disability retirement, you have to be in service for at least 18 months. Okay. And interestingly enough, since it's considered an occupational benefit, technically speaking, you could actually work in the private sector and still collect it, but there would be income restrictions that they'd be watching for with that. But generally speaking, a quick rule of thumb, FERS disability, 60% of your high through your first year. After that, it's either 40% of your high 3 or whatever your earned retirement benefit is at that point, whichever is greater. Now, it does interface with Social Security. So, for example, if you're applying for the FERS disability benefit, you must apply for SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. Okay, so you have to do that. And you actually can collect both. And if you do, the FERS benefit will be offset by 100% of SSDI, and then 60% the next year, 40% thereafter. Unlike FERS disability, SSDI is a total benefit, not occupational, which means if you can't get a job with the government or anywhere else and collect the benefits. Okay, so if you're disabled, you're disabled. It's also pretty tough to get. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But again, keep in mind, You can have both. They will coordinate. So if you're walking around right now and you say, gosh, I don't have a disability insurance, while that is technically correct, you do have disability protection. And one other little caveat emptor here. One of the things about which you need to be careful is the template for most disability insurance policies say that they will coordinate with government disability benefits.
Right.
And they're worded just that way. So that's typically taken as Social Security. It also applies to a FERS disability retirement. So it makes it very challenging. I've had insurance groups approach me many times over the years. Hey, look at this. Hey, look at this. I always ask the same question. Show me your coordination language.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's that way, that means you could be paying to get a benefit that's up here.
Mm-hmm.
But then because of your first disability benefit, Social Security, you might only get this much when you paid for that much. So it's a sticky situation. The one thing it is not is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
It is definitely a brainer. And if you get it wrong, it becomes a migrainer. So don't try this at home, folks. We're here to help on this. Again, as Katelyn said, you can hit us up, just get a question answered at ask.stws@stwserve.com. And we also cover this in our webinars on both CSRs and FERS. So be sure to take advantage of that.
I'm curious, Dan, do you think that language, and it's okay if you don't know, but I would be interested to like drill down to see if that is like intentional or if that is sort of like that coordination language.
I think it's an artifact.
Right? Because it kind of reads that way to me, that the private sector disability policies would maybe just toss that out, meaning Social Security, but because the language isn't specific enough, it affects Feds. That's just a huge swath of the population to be affected by a language
It could be
error.
overly broad.
Yeah.
It could be overly broad. So yeah, no, I think it's an artifact from an earlier time.
Really interesting. Yeah.
Indeed.
All right. Well, I think for the first time ever, we might have hit our 15-minute or less limit, but
we should have talked more football.
I know, right? We should talk more plays.
What was the score?
It was like 26-14, I think.
Okay, that's a decisive win.
It was clear. It was a clear cut. But it's all the time that we have today to talk federal benefits, folks. But we will be back next week to bring you all the latest updates that you need to make informed decisions about your career and your financial well-being as a Fed, of course. And
that'll be the new year, right, Katelyn?
So it will. Our next episode will be 20. Oh, man, we should have had champagne today.
Sure. That's exactly what people want from the folks upon whom they rely for financial guidance and the most up-to-date on their benefits. Yes, getting tipsy with the bubbles, that would be good.
Absolutely. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on our YouTube channel, Fed Life, so that you never miss an episode. And please, please, please do share with your friends and colleagues. It's free. It really helps us spread the word, and it helps us get valuable information into the hands, or I guess in this case, ears and eyes of the Feds who need it.
And as we touched on, don't forget those complimentary webinars. A couple of you should be zeroing in upon. January 3rd from 11 till 2, we have Understanding Your Federal Retirement Benefits, FERS. And then on January 10th, we will take care of our CSRs, folks. We never forget you. We love you too. That'll be January 10th from 1 until 4. Don't miss them.
Absolutely. And for more information on the topics covered in today's show, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com. While you're there, you can subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, to get all the latest news for Feds delivered straight to your inbox every week. And if there's anything that you have questions about as far as wanting a one-to-one approach, if you're curious about financial planning and investment management for Feds, please feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation. Again, the email there is askstws@stwserve.com. And I think that does it for us for the week, folks. Thank you so much for listening to the Fed 15. I'm Katelyn Murray.
And I'm Dan Sipe.
And we will see you next year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.